Hello students, so today we'll see the posterior cranial fossa. So if you see the posterior cranial fossa is the deepest amongst all the three fossa, that is anterior, middle and the posterior cranial fossa. Now this posterior cranial fossa, if you see, it lodges in its anterior part the brainstem part, that is pons and medulla, while in its posterior part it lodges the remaining part of the hindbrain, that is cerebellum, in its posterior part. Now we'll see the boundary of the posterior cranial fossa. So if you see the boundary, the anterior boundary of the posterior cranial fossa, in the midline, the anterior boundary, it is being formed by the dorsum sellae of the sphenoid bone. On either side, it is formed by the superior border of the petrous temporal bone. So this is the petrous part of the temporal bone and this is its superior border, so it forms its anterior boundary. Posteriorly, it is bounded by the squamous part of the occipital bone, and on either side, if you see this portion, this suture line, if you are able to see this one, this is the your mastoid part of the temporal bone. This one is the squamous part of the occipital bone, and this one is the your mastoid angle of the parietal bone. If you see it externally, this is the parietal bone, this one is the parietal bone, and this is the squamous part of the temporal bone. This is the mastoid part of the temporal bone, and this is the occipital bone. So this is how the suture is over here. This is the point, that is asterion. If you see similar thing internally, so this is your mastoid part of the temporal bone, this is the mastoid angle of the parietal bone, and this is the squamous part of the your occipital bone. So this is how the laterally the boundaries are formed. Now we'll see the floor part. So how the floor is formed? So if you see the floor in the midline, the floor is being formed by a sloping area. This sloping area in the midline, it is known as the clivus. This sloping part is known as the clivus. Behind it lies the largest opening in the skull, that is the foramen magnum. Further behind, if you see, this is the occipital part, or you can say the squamous part of the occipital bone. If you see the laterally, the floor, it is being formed by the posterior surface of the posterior sloping part of the petrous temporal bone. This is the condylar part of the occipital bone, and further behind, this is the squamous part of the occipital bone, and laterally if you trace, this is the your mastoid part of the temporal bone. So this is how the floor is formed. Now we'll see the description of each region one by one. First we'll see the median area. So if you see the median area, there are three structures in the midline, that is, first is the clavus, that is the sloping part, followed by the foramen magnum, and followed by this is your part of the occipital bone, or you can say the squamous part of the occipital bone. So first we'll see the clavus. So the clavus, or this region, sloping area, it is formed by the fusion of this. In front, this is your body of the sphenoid, and behind this is the whole is your occipital bone. So this portion of the occipital bone is known as the basi-occiput. Now this basi-occiput, or the basilarity part of the occipital bone, will unite with the body of the sphenoid to form what is a sloping area known as the clivus, or also known as the basi-occiput. Behind the basi-occiput is your foramen magnum. This foramen magnum, if you see, it is bounded anteriorly by this basi-occiput, posteriorly by this squamous occipital part, and on either side by this the condylar part of the occipital bone. So this condylar part of the occipital bone, in its anterior part, it narrow down this whole foramen magnum. If you see the foramen magnum, in its anterior part, it is narrowed, and that is because of this part of the occipital bone. If you see inferiorly, this portion of the occipital bone, it is known as the condylar portion, and internally the similar portion, it narrows the anterior part of the foramen magnum. Behind it, if you see further in the midline, see these structures, this elevation which we are able to see over here is known as the internal occipital protuberance. Similar elevation was there externally over here, known as the external occipital protuberance. Internally, it is known as the internal occipital protuberance, and this region is also known as the area where all the sinuses meet. So it is known as the confluence of the sinus. So confluence of the sinus area lies over here. Below the internal occipital protuberance, if you trace it downwards, there is a vertical ridge. This vertical ridge is known as internal occipital crest. Further, if you trace this internal occipital crest downwards towards the foramen magnum, it diverges and there is a small depressed triangular area which lies in between it, what is known as the Vermean fossa. So this depressed fossa like part is known as Vermean fossa. So this is how the midline structures are there. Now we'll see the lateral area. Now in lateral area we have got, this is the part of the occipital bone, that is the condylar part of the occipital bone. What you are able to see there is an elevation over here. This elevation is known as jugular tubercle. This is known as jugular tubercle. Below the jugular tubercle, if you see, there is an opening. This opening is known as hypoglossal canal. So this is your hypoglossal canal. This one is hypoglossal canal. It is there on either side. Further, if you see, there is another opening which comes over here in relation to this sigmoid sinus. If you trace it from below, this one, if I am introducing this one, it is your posterior condylar canal, also known as the condylar canal. It opens into the lower part of the sigmoid sulcus. This is the sigmoid sulcus. Now another thing is, what you are able to see is, this is your posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone. This sloping part of the petrous temporal bone is there. It forms the anterolateral wall of your posterior cranial fossa. So what are the structures which you are able to see? The opening which you are able to see over here, this opening is your internal acoustic meatus. Here you have got the external acoustic meatus. This one is your external acoustic meatus. Similarly, in this petrous part of the temporal bone, you have got internally another opening known as internal acoustic meatus. So this is your internal acoustic meatus, and this internal acoustic meatus is bounded, it goes laterally and is bounded on its lateral aspect by a cribriform plate known as the lamina cribrosa. So it is directly internally connected with the inner ear. So inner ear lies in deep to this petrous temporal bone. Further, sometimes below and behind this internal acoustic meatus over here, there is a slit like opening, also known as the orifice for the aqueduct of vestibule, which lies somewhere over here. It is not seen in this area. Further behind the internal acoustic meatus lies there is a depressed area over here. This depressed area lies exactly opposite to this elevated area. In the middle cranial fossa, we have seen that this was what is known as the arcuate eminence. So just behind, on the exactly opposite this depressed area, is known as subarcuate fossa. So this is your subarcuate fossa. Now if you see, this petrous temporal bone and this basi-occiput part, it is separated from each other by this groove, or you can say by this fissure. It is known as petro-occipital fissure. Petro-occipital fissure. Now this petro-occipital fissure is having a sinus which lies in relation to it. It is known as inferior petrosal sinus. If you trace it laterally, it opens into an opening, but it is limited on its lower end by an opening known as jugular foramen. So this one is your jugular foramen. So this jugular foramen, if you see, it is bounded in its anterior aspect by a notch which is there present in the petrous temporal bone, and below by another shallow notch which is there into the occipital bone. So that is how by two notches this foramen is bounded. And if you see the upper margin, it is further is irregular in shape, and the medial most deeper notch is known as your glossopharyngeal notch. So this is your glossopharyngeal notch, and remaining whole area is your jugular foramen. Further, if you see this mastoid part, this is the mastoid part of your temporal bone. So there is a S-shaped sulcus which is there over here, and this S-shaped sulcus is known as the sigmoid sulcus. If you see on either side, this is the S-shaped sigmoid sulcus. below it is continuous with the jugular foramen, and above, if you trace it, it is continuous with the transverse transverse sulcus. If you trace it downwards, it is continuous with the sigmoid sulcus, and it opens ultimately into the jugular foramen. Over here lies the transverse sinus, which is ultimately continuous with the sigmoid sinus, and then this sigmoid sinus ultimately converted into the internal jugular vein. Its lateral, as in its upper part, there is another opening. See, this opening you are able to see. If you see it externally, it lies in relation to this mastoid part of the temporal bone, so it is known as the mastoid foramen, and it's open internally. This foramen internally opens into the upper part of this sigmoid sulcus.